What's up? This is Tom. Welcome to another episode of Your Move, where I analyze chess.com member games for free. Before we jump into the analysis, please take a moment to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can do that easily by clicking the button in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. I really appreciate your support. Okay, today we're going to be analyzing a game submitted by chess.com user Pompilio. So we're going to go through the opening rather quickly. d4, knight f6, knight f3, e6, e3, d5, bishop d3. White's opting to play a so-called queen-pawn opening. It's a system where you can basically make the same moves against any of Black's setups. So there's not too much tension in the position. So players can kind of go on with their development. c4, c6. Okay, let's stop here. In queen-pawn system openings, whether you're talking about this opening, which I guess you would characterize as maybe a Zukertort. I know this was recommended by Artur Yusupov in his 9-part series. Or even in the London system, the Kala, the Stonewall attack. There are a lot of them out there. But the key theme with all of these d-pawn openings is that knight e5. This is the most important piece in White's position. Obviously, it's not the most valuable. That distinction belongs to the queen. But it's the most important because it's the catalyst. It's what's generating all of White's play in these positions. And from the Black perspective, this piece is so annoying. It's such an annoying piece. It's like being in a traffic jam, basically. Probably the most prudent thing to do is just to take things slowly improve your position. But, easier said than done. You got places to go and things to do. So a lot of times Black gets impatient, and that's when accidents start to happen. So let's see what happens in this game. I think Black probably has a lot of experience against openings like this and just knows how annoying this knight is. So Black decides to chop it off right away. So after knight takes e5, de, knight d7, f4, you're probably saying to yourself, Tom, you just said this knight on e5 is the most important piece for White in these system openings. But Black can easily take it off the board. He just exchanged it as early as move 11. True, but look at the legacy. Look at what the knight on e5 has left behind, okay? True, Black was able to remove this knight, but now we have this really cramping pawn on e5 that's kicked away one of Black's key defenders on the king side, and we can use this as a spearhead to an attack. Okay, and with that knight gone, now all of a sudden the queen has easy access to the king side with a move like queen h5. After f4, we have this really handy f3 square for our rook to do a very thematic rook lift. So you can see, based on the paint here, White's key attacking ideas here. So I think Black recognizes this and plays f5. He's trying to shut things down on the king side, blunt this bishop, try to quell White's potential initiative. But this is, I would say, f5 is a weakening move, okay? And even though this knight on e5 is no longer on the board, it's still provoking Black to make, I think, inaccurate moves. After we take en passant, bishop takes, knight takes, knight f3. Okay, we're ready to bring a knight, our other knight, back into the e5 square. Black's got this hole on e5. It's a perfect outpost for a knight. This pawn on e6 is backwards. And Black's light-scored bishop is not looking very good. It's staring out a lot of pawns on the same color complex as it. So after queen d6, knight e5, there we go. We're installing another knight on e5. So again, this is going to be, from here on out, the most important piece in white's position. And look how this knight is able to generate a really, really strong attack on the king side. So again, black gets, I would say, a little bit impatient, right? He's sitting in this traffic jam and his blood pressure's boiling. He's like, oh, I got to take some sort of aggressive maneuver. I'm bringing the knight to d7 because I just want to chop this thing off and get on with my day. But the problem with that is it leaves the king side a little bit vulnerable. So in this position, it's white to play. I'm going to turn it over to you. Black is putting pressure on this knight on e5, right? It's defended once, attacked twice. What should white play in this position? Pause your videos. Try to find the best move. Okay, in this position, I think the best move is queen h5. Okay, we don't want to retreat our knight in this position. We don't want to go backwards and block the queen in. Ideally, we would like to keep this knight on the board, but we don't want it to block the queen's access to the king side. So queen h5, nice move. With the point being that if black plays g6, this would be a huge mistake. Knight takes, pawn takes, queen takes, king h8. Queen h7 is checkmate. So look what black has to do here. After the move queen h5, the knight comes back to f6. Okay, so black's kind of lost the tempo because he was a little bit impatient with that knight coming e5. But that's what this knight on e5 does. It's just so annoying. And it can make really, really strong players look bad and really impatient. So the queen's attacked, white simply steps back, and black plays g6. A very weakening move on the king side. But again, I think this move was provoked by this knight on e5. I think black played g6 to blunt the bishop so that queen takes h7 is not a threat. And black intends to play knight d7 to try to trade off this knight. So here's another example of this most important piece in queen-pawn system openings, provoking just mistakes and weakening moves in the opponent's position. So over to you here. Black just played g6, white to move. What are you playing in this position? Pause your videos. Try to find the best solution. Okay, we want in this position to resist the urge to play a sacrifice on g6. We want to get more pieces into the attack. Obviously, sacrificing on g6 is something that we always have to calculate. It's a key attacking idea in this position. But best here, I think, is rook f3. Boom. Getting another piece into the attack. And this is a very thematic move. Again, enabled by the exchange of the knight on e5 earlier in the game. The rook comes to f3 and can either look to play itself over to g3, to h3, or rook lift is a very, very common attacking idea in these type of openings, and one that you should know. So black tries to start mounting a defense of the h7 square and shore up his dark squares. White plays rook h3, attacking this weak pawn on h7. Black captures on c4. And white starts to infiltrate on the dark squares. And after king g8, I'm going to turn it over to you. Okay? Our bishop here on d3 is hanging. What should white play in this position? Pause your videos. How do you continue the attack? Nice job finding the move. Bishop takes g6. Boom! Blowing up the black king side. We're ready to play this move now that we've gotten the rook into the game. You can see it just makes the whole move so much more stronger, because if black captures in this position, queen takes g6 is checkmate. Game over. So black can't even touch the bishop on g6. After rook g3, setting up a nasty discovery, black sidesteps to the h8 square. And then there are a lot of good moves for white here. I really kind of like white's choice here. He plays this really clever move, bishop to f7. Just cutting off the coordination of the queen in the g7 square. So white's threatening mate here. And the rook takes on f7. So over to you. After white's next move, black threw in the towel. Pause your videos. What is the best move for white in this position? So nice job finding the killer move. Knight g6. Boom. Game over. A royal fork. Black can't take with the h-pawn because it's pinned, and black resigned in this position. So this was a really great game by Pompilio, and I think a really great illustration of how the knight on e5 is the most important piece for white in all of these queen-pawn system openings. Even if black takes it, it can still have an influence much later on the game, especially when white's able to alter the pawn structure, like what happened in this game, in a favorable way, where a pawn lands on e5, and we bring the other pawn to f4, and it's a spearhead to an attack, and we can quickly get our pieces over to the king side. So great game by Pompilio. Thanks so much for sending it in, and really a model game for all of you queen-pawn system opening players to review for your own games. So I hope you enjoyed this analysis, and why don't you elevate your own game by checking out my website, mvpchess.com. You can also scan the QR code below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time on Your Move. Bye.